Hi, my name is Amit Desai and welcome back to Lightroom Preset Shop. In this video, I am going to show you how to make the most out of HDR workflow presets. HDR photography, that is high dynamic range photography, is extremely popular with the landscape photographic community, and even a lot of professional photographers love this style of HDR kind of photography, which makes the images pop. It adds a lot of depth and life to the images, and it also has a lot of vibrance and colors, and that's what HDR photography is all about. But we also need to understand the fact that HDR photos should also not be at the same time completely unrealistic and extreme to the extent that they look fake and not so believable. So here we are excited to showcase to our brand new HDR workflow presets toolkit. This is the most powerful HDR preset workflow system on the market today, and today we will be demonstrating what you can do with this with the help of a few examples, and you will see right in front of you images that will transform into beautiful HDR imagery, exactly the kind of images that you're looking for. So before we get on to the demonstration part of this tutorial, I would like to first start off with how you can go about installing the HDR workflow presets onto your system. So let's get started. The very first thing, just like any other preset system, is you need to first download the presets zip file onto your desktop. We recommend the desktop because it becomes easy for you to locate the file and unzip it and install it into Lightroom. So the way we do that is, first of all, we need to minimize Lightroom, and right here I have already downloaded LRPS HDR presets, which is a zip file on a desktop. What we need to do is simply double click on this if you're on a Mac, and it will get automatically unzipped onto the desktop. If you're on a Windows machine, simply right click on the zip file, and from the drop down menu you need to select the unzip option. Once you do that, you need to also select the folder, in our case the desktop, as the destination folder where the folder will get unzipped. So once you've done that, you will find a new folder created on your desktop, which is the LRPS HDR presets folder. Double click on that folder to open it, and inside this folder you will have two files. One is the plus LRPS HDR presets folder, and the other is the readme or the installation file, which gives you a text file of all the steps that you need to take to install these presets into your system. Since you're watching this video, you don't need to go through this file again, but if you just want a text file with all the steps mentioned, this is the file that you need to open. So now let's go inside this folder, that is plus LRPS HDR presets folder, and here are all the files. These are 128 different files that you get. So 128 presets are what you get access to once you buy the LRPS HDR workflow presets. All you need to do is simply right click on this folder and click on copy. You can even use a keyboard shortcut. If you're on a Mac, use Command C, and if you're on a PC, use Control C. Once you've copied this folder on your clipboard, go back into Lightroom, and if you're on a Mac, click the Lightroom menu, and under the Lightroom menu click Preferences. If you're on Windows, you would click on the Edit menu, and inside the Edit menu you will find an option for Preferences. Click on it. Since we are on the Mac, we go to Lightroom and click Preferences. Inside this Preferences dialog box, you will find various different tabs for different options and settings and preferences. We choose the Presets tab, and inside the Presets tab we click on Show Lightroom Presets folder. This will immediately open up the exact Lightroom folder wherein all your different presets live. Now that you have access to this folder, what you need to do is locate the Develop Presets folder, which is the folder where we'll be pasting this HDR presets folder into. So what we do is we click on Develop Presets to get access to all the contents of the Develop Presets, and inside the Develop Presets, right click and click on Paste. If you want to use a keyboard shortcut, if you're on a Mac, simply click Command V, and if you're on Windows, click on Control V. I would not be pasting the folder because we already have this preset system installed right here right now on the system, so we don't need to paste it. Now once we've done that, close this dialog box, close this as well, and close this dialog box as well. And once you're back into Lightroom, you will still not see the HDR presets on the left hand side, which you can see here because you already have those installed. So what you need to do is simply quit Lightroom application. The way we do that is going to Lightroom, then click on quit Lightroom, and we come out of Lightroom. Once we quit the application, we need to restart the application once again, and once the Lightroom application opens, you will be able to access all your HDR workflow presets right inside this left presets panel. In all likelihood, these HDR presets won't be expanded and you won't be able to see them until you get access to that. So now that you open Lightroom, simply click on this triangle and the triangle will expand into all the presets that you have now access to. Now that we have this workflow system installed on our machine, we now get to understand what we can do using these HDR workflow presets. So before we start showcasing and demonstrating different effects and filters on these beautiful images, I would like to give a brief understanding of how we've organized and structured our HDR workflow preset system, so that you get an idea about the whole psyche of what you can do to create extraordinary, breathtaking, extremely beautiful HDRs. So first, like most of our workflow presets, we have foundation HDR presets. Yes, these are not just base level foundation presets. These are all HDR style, HDR standard or HDR quality foundation presets that add this grungy, lifelike quality of a pseudo HDR to your photograph. So these are all HDR foundation presets. Then after these presets, we have clarity presets to add more clarity. We also have contrast presets to add contrast, sharpen presets to add sharpening. We have vibrance and saturation, enhancers and reducers to increase and reduce vibration and saturation respectively from the images. And we have also black and white styles and black and white tones to add vintage, old filmic HDR quality to the photos. And we also do have stylizations. Yes, these are absolutely amazing stylizations that will further enhance and stylize your HDR look of the image. And finally, we also have presets to increase or enhance haze or reduce the haze in the image. We also do have smart contrast presets. These are dynamic contrast presets, not the typical contrast presets which only increase, say, the contrast or the difference between the black and the whites, the highlights and the shadows. No, these are not presets that increase the contrast level. This is a very different kind of contrast. That's why we call it the smart contrast, because it increases this contrast dynamically across your image very intelligently, and that's why we call it smart contrast. There you have it. This is the system that we have, and below each of these categories, just like all the other presets that we have even the reset preset that resets only that particular category's effect that we made to the photo. So if I were to say add haze to the photo and we are not happy with this haze on this photo, we simply click the reset button and just the haze will go away. We only reset this category of presets. That's what is the reset preset within a group. And the reset all preset is basically for resetting every single effect that you have applied onto your image. This is how we have structured the HDR workflow presets, and the best way to demonstrate the sheer power of our system is by showcasing what we can do live right here, right now. So let's get started. Let's start off with this very first photo. As always with every single workflow preset system that we have, we start off with the foundation presets. Since we have HDR foundation preset, let us try for, say, this, the HDR 11 preset. Now this to me is a little bit too strong for my taste in terms of the contrast and the HDR feel, and it's also a lot more vibrant and saturated. But bear with me for a second, because we are going to address that issue by correcting that a little later. Let us add sharpening to the photo. So we add a little bit of sharpening. Now let us reduce the saturation a bit because it's way too saturated. The colors look a lot stronger. So let us reduce it by saturation minus. So now that the colors are a little muted, how about we increasing the vibrance, because I feel that this photo earlier was way too strong in its vibrance and now it's a bit way too muted. So we offset that by adding vibrance, and we do this by clicking on save a vibrance plus preset. So by doing this, now we have offset and rectified the saturation aspect of the image. Now let us add some stylization. So how about we go with rose gold. I think rose gold really looks very beautiful, so let's keep that. And I think I would like the skies to open up and look a lot more blue than they are looking right now. Right now they are on the lavender purplish kind of a tone. That's not how the skies actually look. So to do that, we need to reduce the haze a bit. So let's go for, say, haze 5 minuses. By doing that, we do that by reducing the haze, and let's click on 114 haze preset. And once we do that, immediately you see that the colors in the sky look a lot more apparent, and now the whole image looks way more balanced than it was before. Can you see how big of a difference we could do to this image? Here is the before and here is the after. This is a strong HDR image, but it doesn't look fake, it doesn't look unrealistic, and it has an element of a real 3D quality to it. And let's see what we can do to this photo. I think this photo already is having an HDR feel to it right from the get-go. So I don't think we need to start off with a foundation preset, because that would probably make the photo look way too crunchy, like say this. It's way too strong, way too vibrant, and way too saturated, to the extent that it looks completely fake and artificial, and we don't want this kind of a message to go through to our clients. So we exit out of that, we undo this preset, or we can even just use the reset all preset, and all the changes that we did to this photo will get reset. Okay, so now that we are back to square one, let us add a little bit of clarity, and then let us add sharpening to the photograph. And now let us add a stylization. How about marigold? Marigold is imparting a beautiful warm yellow sunrise kind of a filter to our photograph, and that is accentuating the HDR quality of the photo, but at the same time it is not making it look way too HDR. And I think right now the exposure in the image is a little off, so let us increase the exposure just a little bit, and there you have it. We went with just a few clicks from this to this, and we have a beautiful warm sunlit HDR of this old man smoking a cigarette. So that's it about this photo. Let's go to the next photo, which is a high-end male fashion photograph. So let's see what we can do by applying or creating an HDR feel for this photo. So let us start off with a foundation preset, like most of the times that we do. So let's start off, say, with an HDR3 preset. Let's add some contrast. So let's add 20 contrast 2. I would also like to add some sharpening to this photo. So how about we go with sharpen 1? And I think this photo would look really better if we make it a monochromatic photo, because since it has deep blacks and rich blacks, and there's a lot of elements in this photo that will make this photo look a lot better in monochrome. I think a monochrome preset is what is the need of the hour for this image. So let us go for a monochromatic filter or a preset. So let's go with, say, monochrome 1. that's it. I think we are done. It's looking just perfect. The only thing probably missing from this photo is we need to add a little bit of cinematic grain. So let's add grain 2 to this preset. It gives you this aged, old kind of a vintagey, classic, timeless look, and at the same time it is high fashion and it is HDR. Because it's a lot more crunchy, it's adding a lot of depth and contrast to the photograph, and at the same time it has the classic old black and white feel to the photo. So with just a few clicks of our mouse, we were able to go from this to this. Here's the before and here's the after. Can you see how big of a difference the HDR presets is doing to our entire workflow? Trust me, this is the absolute best HDR preset system you can get your hands on. And if you still aren't convinced, let me show you how we can convince you with the next 2 photos, because what you are going to see is going to blow your mind. Let's see what we can do to this image. How about we start off with, say, HDR 11 preset, and let's add some clarity. Let's add some sharpening. So let's add sharpen 2. Let's add a lens vignetting to close the image. So how about we go with lens vignetting, and now let's add a stylization. So how about we go with soft violet pastel. I'm really loving this look of soft violet pastel. The only thing needed to finish off this image is to add a bit of smart contrast. Smart contrast is a very intelligent sort of a contrast. You see here right now with the presets that are already applied, the contrast slider is plus 35, the clarity is plus 57, and these are all the values of the highlight, shadows, whites and blacks. But when we click on smart contrast, none of these values will be affected whatsoever, but still there will be an improvement in the contrast. So let's see how we do that. How about we go with smart contrast plus. That's it, my friend. Let us undo this effect of smart contrast and see. The way we can do that is by resetting this effect. The contrast is gone. If I were to make it very strong, say smart contrast plus plus plus, you would really find the difference. But see, these values are all unchanged. Even by clicking on smart contrast plus plus plus, there is no change in any of these values. We don't want this, but this is way too strong and this is too unrealistic. So we go back to smart contrast plus to make it look a lot more natural. That's what smart contrast is. It's pretty smart and it's pretty magical. Even the tone curve you see doesn't get affected by using smart contrast. Smart contrast is dynamic and it intelligently applies that magical contrasty look that keeps it real, intact and believable, and at the same time gives it an HDR feel. That's how we completely change the look of this image into a beautiful looking HDR. So here is the before and here's the after. Can you see what big of a difference we could make just by clicking a few presets and stacking these presets one on top of the other? It will blow your mind when you start using this system. It really makes our day when clients call us or email us with their testimonials on our website and on Etsy and tell us how much they love the HDR workflow presets, because it's unique, one of a kind preset system. You probably wouldn't have seen HDR workflow presets because mostly such workflow presets don't exist, meaning most of the presets that you buy for HDR are one-click presets, and most of the times they look way too strong or they don't suit the image that you're using them on. That's the power of our workflow system. Now let's go to the final image in our collection and let's see what we can do with that. So let us go for an HDR foundation preset as always, and let's try out HDR 6. Immediately you can see that the photo is looking a lot more strong, crunchy and very HDR like. Let's add some contrast to this photo. So how about we go with contrast 3? Just like our earlier photos, sometimes when we add these foundation HDR presets, they can be a bit too strong on the colors and the saturation. So we might sometimes need to reduce the saturation, which is in this case as well. So let us reduce it a bit. Now it's looking a little better. but I would prefer that it has a different color tone to it. So let's add some stylization. How about we go with lemony light blue. Yep, that's perfect. This lemony light blue is just the exact subtle stylization that I would have wanted for an image like this to pop and look believable. But right now there is one thing that's disturbing me in this image, and that is it's a little too bright and most of the highlights are blown out, and I can see that there's a lot of brightness and exposure. So let us reduce that exposure a bit from the image. So how about we reducing that to say -30. -30 is now making the image a lot more beautiful, a little more pleasing on the eye, and it has that HDR feel. It has the correct level of exposure and saturation that I personally feel looks good on this image. But as I've told you, you are free to experiment. If you are looking for a lot more stronger HDR, you could just make it a lot crunchy, like add clarity, max out contrast, max out sharpening, max out saturation, and max out vibrance. You can really do anything and everything with this image. So do you see, you are only confined and limited by your imagination. You can use this system and make it look way too loud, and also keep it realistic and smooth and believable and HDR like the way we like it. So it's not really that you are restricted from the capability aspect of the workflow system. This system is extremely capable, but still you can do absolutely anything you can dream of with this HDR workflow presets. So to wrap up, what makes HDR workflow presets the absolute best HDR workflow preset system on the market? These presets, like all our presets, are scientifically designed. We use these presets in our studio, on our clients, and on the work that we do for our clients. This is the most advanced HDR preset stacking workflow system on the market, period. It's extremely intuitive and user friendly. If you've seen me demonstrating and showing you and explaining you the structure and the flow of how we've organized this preset workflow system, you will agree with us that it's extremely intuitive and user friendly. You can create thousands of unique HDR looks that evoke powerful emotion by stacking our presets one on top of another, and create your very own unique signature look that your clients go gaga about. And here is one more thing, just like all our workflow presets, even the HDR workflow preset system works great on both JPEG files and RAW files, and they also work great with Adobe Lightroom 4, 5, 6 and Adobe Lightroom CC. So if you are using any of the Adobe Lightroom versions above version 4, you are set for using this system and do absolutely anything you desire to your heart's content using our workflow system. And just like all our previous workflow presets, we provide you with lifetime updates to our HDR workflow preset system. Unless the Lightroom engine itself is changed, and there's a lot of changes that happen to our sliders, so much so that we need to completely re-engineer our entire preset systems. All these updates that we do, all the improvements, the refinements, the additions are absolutely free to you at no additional charge if you are our customer, because we love our customers, we value your opinions, and if you have a few suggestions, we are completely open to that. You can mail us anytime to our support desk, and we will within 24 hours get back to you. So you get lifetime updates to our HDR workflow preset system. I hope, my friends, you enjoyed this demonstration and you could understand how much powerful this HDR preset workflow system is and what it can do to your workflow as an HDR photographer and a landscape artist and a photographer. So that's it, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you on the inside. Happy editing. Bye for now.